A low, ominous rumble of thunder mixed with the faint sound of silverware clinking on china plates. The sound is distant, muffled, like hearing a party from outside in the cold. November 26th, 1857, Thanksgiving Day. Fade in slowly. A lavish dining table illuminated by candlelight. A roasted turkey sits in the center, glistening with fat. Wine is being poured. The camera pans across the faces of wealthy men and women, their cheeks flushed with alcohol and warmth. Inside the main house of the plantation, just outside Little Rock, Arkansas, the air smelled of roasted sage, heavy gravy, and expensive tobacco. It was a celebration of abundance. The master of the house sat at the head of the table, a man known not just for his wealth, but for his cruelty. He was laughing, a deep, booming laugh that rattled the crystal glasses. Cut to the hands of the master. He is slamming his fist on the table in joy. Then, cut to the corner of the room. A shadow stands there, a man, massive, silent. His head is bowed, but his fists are clenched at his sides. Narrator, V.O. He was telling a story, boasting, bragging about his property, bragging about the beast he had tamed. He pointed a grease-stained finger toward the corner of the room, toward the shadow. The laughter stops abruptly. A heavy silence falls, the sound of a clock ticking loud. Narrator, V.O. The guests turned. They looked at the man in the corner. They didn't see a human being. They saw a specimen, a mountain of muscle and scar tissue. They called him Samson. Extreme close-up on Samson's eyes. They lift slowly. They are not fearful. They are burning. The master, drunk on wine and power, decided that dinner needed a show. He didn't want a servant that night. He wanted a circus act. He snapped his fingers. A sharp snap of fingers echoes into silence. "Show them," the master commanded. "Show them the strength that broke the mule's back." Samson steps forward. The floorboards creak under his weight. The guests lean back. History is often written in ink, dried on parchment, and filed away in dusty archives. But some history is written in blood, in the span of a single heartbeat. What happened next wasn't recorded in the local newspaper the next morning. It wasn't discussed in polite society. It was whispered in terror. Quick cuts. The master stands up. Samson moves. A blur of motion. The camera shakes. Samson didn't perform a trick. He didn't lift a chair or bend a horseshoe. He moved with the speed of a striking viper. One hand. That was all it took. One hand wrapped around the throat of the man who owned him. The sound of a chair crashing over. A gasp from the guests. And then, a sickening, loud crack, like a dry branch snapping in a winter forest. The master's wine glass falls in slow motion, shattering on the floor. Red wine spills like... The silence that followed was louder than the scream. The master slumped. The bone breaker had lived up to his name. And on that Thanksgiving night, the table was set not for a feast, but for a massacre. Drone shot of the Arkansas wilderness. Dense forests, murky swamps, gray skies. It looks hostile and untamed. Narrator V.O. To understand why a man snaps, you have to understand the pressure that built the explosion. You have to understand 1857. Archival maps of the United States in the 1850 seconds. Zoom in on Arkansas. Arkansas in the late 1850 seconds was the frontier. It wasn't the polished, genteel south of Virginia or Charleston. This was rough country. It was violent country. Little Rock was a growing city, but step a few miles outside the city limits, and you were in the wild. Illustrations of slave markets, men with whips, the brutal reality of plantation life. Tensions were at a boiling point. The entire nation was tearing itself apart over the issue of slavery. The Dred Scott decision had just come down from the Supreme Court, declaring that black people were not citizens, that they had no rights the white man was. Sound of a gavel banging, then the sound of chains rattling. For the enslaved population of Arkansas, this was a message: you will never be free. Hope was evaporating, and when hope vanishes, something else takes its place: desperation, rage. A reenactment scene. Slaves working in a cotton field. The sun is hot. The overseer is watching closely, a hand on his pistol. The white population was terrified. They knew they were outnumbered in many counties. They slept with pistols under their pillows. They whispered about Haiti. They whispered about Nat Turner. Every gathering of slaves was seen as a potential army. Every glance of defiance was seen as a spark of rebellion. Historical newspaper clippings from Arkansas papers warning of insurrection. And into this powder keg of paranoia and brutality, a legend was growing. A story was being passed from plantation to plantation, whispered in the slave quarters at night when the overseers were asleep. The story of a man who couldn't be broken,